Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. In this video, we will talk about the Python's most important concept, which is exception handling. Whether you are a beginner or experienced coder, you should understand how to handle error, which can make your code more reliable and user-friendly. So stick around because by the end of this video, you will be an exception handling expert. So let's dive in and understand what are exceptions. Every programmer encounters errors. Some errors occurs when you accidentally divide it by zero, you forget a variable with the syntax error, or you try to access a file which does not exist, or there is some network issue. In Python, those runtime errors are called exceptions. Let's see some of the errors in the code. For example, we have two numbers, number one and number two. And we say that we try to divide this number, result is equal to number 1 divided by number 2, and then we print out the result. Okay, so this code will work fine. Over here, the result is 1.2. But what if we delete this number 1 by number 2, which is 0? Then we will get an zero division error. How about instead of dividing it by 0, let's divide it by string 0. So we are trying to divide a number with a string. So in that case, we will get a type error saying that we can't divide integer with string. Now consider there is number 3 is equal to 0 and number 2 is not defined. In that case, we will get a different error called name error. So similarly, there can be multiple type of errors. So how to handle those errors? Because in Python, whenever an exception gets encountered, it stops the execution unless we handle those exceptions. So we need to understand how to handle those exceptions. For this, we have to understand the concept of try and except block. So basic concept is like whenever you think there is some piece of code which might throw exception, we put this into try block. And then we say except. And here we provide an exception which we want to handle. For example, if we divide it by 0, we were getting zero division error, right? So now if we will try to run this, you can see the code is not throwing over error over here. It is trying to throw error over here. What if we comment this and now if we will try to run this? So now error division by 0 is not allowed. We we were getting this error, right? Except type error as E. Let me print error invalid type of. Okay. And let me see this. And if we'll try to run this code, now we will get invalid type of division. How about we don't know what type of an error will occur? So we have a generic class called exception. And there we can see, there we can directly print error. So if we do not know what is the type of error or the exception we will be encountering, so we can use the generic uh, exception class. Otherwise, we can use the specific error to handle it. So in this way, we can use try and multiple except block. There might be some scenario that whether there is an exception occurred or not, we have to run a certain piece of code. So there, the concept of finally comes in. So for example, we have the finally block over here. So it will say, okay, oh, finally there is a typo. No, there is a syntax error. Why? So we can say, although we are getting an exception, we are trying to print it. So how about if there is no error in the try block, then that block should run. If try block runs without any error, and if you want to handle that scenario, we have the else keyword. So there we are saying that if there is no error in try block, we will try to print result. Otherwise, if there is any zero division error or type error or there is any other type of exception, we are handling those. And after everything, we are printing the execution completed. So let's see the code. So over here, we can see that uh, we are trying to do invalid type of division and then execution gets completed. But what if we are having a good number over here, for example, 12 divided by 12. So in that case, the result is 1.2 and we have the execution completed as well. So the flow is it goes into the try block. It just checks if there is any exception or not. If there is any exception, it gets handled over in the except block. If there is no exception, it will go into the else block. And after everything, it will go into the finally block. So the major use case of finally block is mainly freeing of the resources, like you are reading a file, so you might want to close it, or there is some reset you want to do that, then you can include this finally options. Now, let's try to understand if there are any possible ways to raising an exception manually. So there the concept of raise comes in. For example, I want to divide a number, but it should not divide it by itself. If I'm trying to divide a number 12, if it is 12, then we have to raise an value error saying that the number 1 and number 2 should not match. So in that case, we can have a simple if block. We can say if number 1 equals number 2, we can raise an exception. What type of exception we want to raise? Value error. Numbers are equal, which is not allowed. Over here, you can type your type of error. Whenever we will be learning object-oriented programming, we will be learning how we can have a custom class of exception. So that's all in this video. To recap, whatever code you were writing, which might throw an exception, we put them into try block. If we know what type of an exception it will occur, we handle it using except block. For generic exception, we use our exception class. Else block is executed if there is no error in try block, and finally execute this always, whether there is an exception or not. So exception handling makes your program more robust, user-friendly, and reliable. I hope this tutorial helped you to understand how to handle error effectively in Python. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more coding content, and drop a comment with your thoughts.